All right, Naib. As long as you can hear me, I'm okay. But then you will be able to follow up on um, the exercise. Uh, all right. I'm going to minimize this and talk about what we're going to do today. Today we're going to review the Revit user interface. We're going to open Revit. I'm going to show you the different parts of the user interface. Discuss with you some Revit 101, nomenclature of what is a family, a category, a type, the different type of parameters inside Revit, how Revit organize its commands, and how to utilize the view controls, make selections, cancel commands, um, and some differences between system family and component family. The We're here. This is the sixth. Next class, I'm gonna maybe do a combo of two topics to catch up, but we're okay on the timeline. Uh, the So go ahead and launch Revit, um, Revit 2024, and when you launch Revit, you will see this is the welcome page. Revit 2024 introduced a new feature this year, which is the new Revit Home. This switch that you see here allow you to display the classic home page, which listed a thumbnail for every model you've opened, up to um, 8 models. And this toggle switches to the new user interface, which allow me to see more models, more information about those uh, models, and different ways to display the historical list of projects I've opened. By default, you can display this in a grid. You can also display it as a list. And by doing it in a list, you can see the time a file was open and the path where it lives. So I actually like this view better because then, you know, I can have up to 12 or 15 different last historical outlook of all the projects I've worked. And then if you're working over and over in the same project, you can pin it. And when you pin it, it's always going to be available. This list has a maximum number of rows, and when new files are open that exceed that number, then the last row start disappearing. And so, but if you want to keep, the 2, 3 projects you're working in your company, you can pin it, and it's not going to go away from the Revit home. You can also search here by keyword, or filter them by a specific parameter. Hold on, here. All right, so the new home, new feature in 2024. There's another tab called the Autodesk projects, and this is the list of teams on the cloud that you've been invited to. And so I have been invited to these projects in 2024. You probably recognize this project. This is the one I did a demonstration in a webinar. and I had to create a new cloud project to demonstrate the cloud capabilities. Um, but these only display the project in the version you are working on. So these are the projects that I have worked in Revit 2024. If I open Revit 2023, I'm going to see the projects on the cloud that have been set up in Revit 2023 and so forth. Um, the recent files is the new Revit home, the same thing. And then the way you start a new project or a new family is by hitting create a new model or open a new model or create a new family or open a new family. Um, these are ways to connect with resources online. So this includes, the terms of use in the software, what's new in the version, online help with the community forums, and customer support. Um, Customer support varies, like Jess was discussing. Um, there, unfortunately, support is tiered depending on the type of subscription that you have. At the lowest tier, it's the trials and the educational versions. Um, then, if you buy a subscription, I think you get access to a live chat support and ticket supports. If you have EBA accounts, then you have premium support, which includes a direct line with Autodesk support person. But you got me here. I am your support person, and if no one responds, you can send me a text or email, and I can try to help you. Um, all right. So the other thing, this is your username. This is your associated with your Autodesk account. Whether you're using a trial or an educational version, the user account is how you manage your subscription. Um, uh, all Autodesk products have shifted from uh, permanent, have shifted to subscription-based um, uh, model. We no longer offer permanent licenses. And so what that means is that once the subscription is expired, you have to purchase the subscription. And that's not an Autodesk thing. I think the entire software industry has shifted to that model. There are some exceptions. I think Rhino is an exception. I think that still offers um, permanent subscriptions, permanent licenses. This is another useful thing. This is the help file. You can also hit the F1. And the help file, it's useful for beginner people because uh, it describes every single capability inside Revit, and it groups different topics by type. Um, here, for example, it tells you what's new in Revit 2024, what kind of new issues have been released, what issues have been resolved, etc. Um, when it comes to getting support on how to do things for topography, it has a really good keyword search. But under architectural design, where's topography? Topo solids, for example. You search a topic, and it will, yeah. So there's a whole new tab, a refresh new tab around site design, and these explain step by step, what is a topo solid, what are the methods of sketching. It include videos, a short video, how to do certain tasks. This is one method of create a topo solid, which is via importing a CAD file or a comma separated value list of points. And then it goes on all the features one by one. Most of these are new in Revit 2024. I am going to go over those in this class with you all. But if you want to know more about a command help file and hit the keyword, it's very robust. It's very powerful. All right, go back to Revit here. How you close Revit? You just close the application here, the big X here. If a model is open, Revit's gonna prompt you to save the file. You can hit OK or you can cancel. These button here allow me to switch to the home page of a Revit, which present the user interface without any project open. And if I press it again is that the second icon next to the R. Then it opens the welcome page home. Your version of Revit is always disclosed at the very top. This is it discloses the point release, and if you ever need of support with Autodesk, they're always going to ask you what is the incremental version you have. So if you click this little arrow next to the question mark and hit about Autodesk Revit, this is the information that you usually attach when filing support tickets. This is the serial number, the official number name, and the installation number. Another thing where you say where it says manage license here, it connects you to the license manager, and you can actually see who is the holder of the seat and when does it expire. Like mine expires at the end of this year, but it's extendable. You are going to need internet in order to run Autodesk products because the license verification happened through the connection with our web verification service. And so if you don't have internet, I'm sorry, but you won't be able to open to work with Revit. There is a version of Revit that works as a viewer. So for example, if your trial expired, or you no longer or your subscription expire, when you hit start and you look for Revit, or you look for Autodesk, and then notice that there is an installation that is called Revit 2024. That's what we're going to use. There's another one called Revit Viewer 2024. These two are exactly the same, except that the viewer you cannot save, but you can do everything else. You can open a file, you can investigate it, you can destroy it, but you won't be able to save. And so a viewer is a good idea for a member who needs to just explore a model without paying a license. And so for installing, to have a viewer, all you do is install a trial. You can let it expire, but then a viewer will launch the software, but it will not let you save the work. And when it's useful, if you have occasional users who are involved in quality control, or they want to check just a model, they don't need a permanent license. They just can launch the viewer and and the viewer will take care of it. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go
Um,
ahead.
if you open a file while you're on the internet and then you open Revit while you're on the internet and then you go somewhere else and you don't have internet but you still have Revit open, will that work?
Yes, it will. It There's a little risk that um, I'll give you an example of the risk. It doesn't happen very often, but it may be. Say, for example, you are using Revit and you're in the middle of modeling a topography, but you didn't save. And so you have checked from the central file the ability to modify and change that element. And so I close my computer and take my computer with me to a different place that doesn't have internet. That element, the central file, lock it. And so if the risk is that the other members, I'm going to try to work on that element, but they won't be able to do it because you check that object in your local workstation. And so basically the rest of the team stays like trapped. Uh, and that's the risk. It's working uh, the risk. And once you come back and you reconnect to the internet, then the central file go back and start recognizing your log of activities. You save and synchronize with central, and then you release that object, and then the rest of the objects can start. The rest of the team can start working on those. Not a good practice, but if it happens, understand the risk. That's the only thing. Um, Um, and then the other risk is one thing is to like be disconnected for an hour or 2 hours in the same day. Another one is stay this stay with the Revit open, disconnected for a week. And so in a week, a lot has happened in the central file, including the elements that you may have checked in. And so um, you might receive a message that says you no longer you are no longer able to connect with the central file because the central file is like a traffic control, and then it can no longer track your activities, the extent of the changes that have remained open in the software, and so your local session might become unable to synchronize changes over a long extended period of time. All right. So everybody's with me in the welcome home. I'm going to open in Revit. In this year, we no longer ship out of the
Cesar,
box. Yeah.
a question. My
Yeah.
welcoming page is totally different than this one.
Yeah. And you have 2024.
Yes, 2024.
Do you see the switch here?
Let me see.
No, it's the same for me, Cesar.
You
Yeah,
don't see that?
No.
Yeah, I have the same issue.
You know what? I think that might be the Revit 2024.2. You don't have 2024.2? Okay. So that's what it is. Yeah, I told you 2024.2 includes certain novelties. And so you don't have to do this install now, but maybe after class, maybe during the time we are pausing we're waiting for the Zoom to finish. You can go to the Revit Access toolbar. The Revit Access is I don't have it open here. It's an icon with the symbol of
Autodesk.
Autodesk, yes. And for some reason, I'm not seeing it here, or I'm seeing it.
Okay.
There's an app also called Access. Let's see if, oh no, this is access tool. I don't know why I'm not seeing the access. Maybe I'll close it and reopen it. Revit 2024. And then you can install Revit 2022, and then that switch is going to appear in the latest release.
Yeah.
There's no problem between I mean, if you start a new project in 2024, and some of you are 2024.0 and others are in 2024.1, you're still going to be able to work, share, and collaborate as long as the major release. The major release is what's important that we all agree on when starting a project. The incremental release is desirable that everybody's on the same one, but it's not a requirement to be able to work. So anybody here has 2024.2, just raise your hand. Nobody? All right, I guess nobody saw me. Nobody.
Oh wait, I think
I think
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
This is Hannah. Yeah.
Hi, Hannah.
I do too. This is Martha.
Excellent. So I was
Good.
just appreciating. Okay. So Revit before this year used to ship sample projects, but those sample projects are big and not everybody use them. So starting this year, we stopped shipping the sample projects and we actually make them available on our website. So I'm gonna put in the chat panel a link to where you find them, or you can just Google Revit sample projects 2024. And the first link that shows here is the one I'm going to share with you here. Copy in the chat panel with. All right, so this is a new set of data sets for 2024. I like this very much because we actually hire a team of actual designers to construct this project for us. It's a real project. It's in Pennsylvania, and it's adaptive reuse retrofit in an historical district. And it has all the disciplines combined. So there's an electrical, there's a point cloud, there's an HVAC, plumbing site, there's a site one, structural, point cloud, etc. And it has, it's a good example of good practices. We're not going to need it for this class today, but at your convenience, you can download it. I'm also going to pull it up in our in our Google Drive. This is the file that I want us to open. It's the rack basic sample project. So just click on it. It's automatically going to download in your download folder. It has a nice topography, and it's good for the type of explorations I want to show you here. This is another good example, actually, but this is very detailed. This is the DAC house. It was a real project commissioned to a German architect. So it's in metric, but this is hyper detailed. It's detailed to the point that it's almost for construction. And then there are all these specialty ones. All right, so it takes it's fast. It's a fast download. It's a short model. It's only 18 megabytes. But let's open that. So once it's downloaded, you can go back to Revit, and you can open a file directly from here. Let's go Model, Open. and then you go to the download folders. The download folder is available under My PC. So if you click My PC here, or this PC, sorry, then you will find it under the downloads folder, and here is the file. Then hit open.
So sorry, I went to the Google Drive that you shared us for download on the Revit, and it says it's empty. The folder is empty on the Revit group.
No, I put it.
Or is it?
Oh, my bad. I'm so bad. I sent this message just to Naive. I'm gonna paste it
Oh,
again to everyone in the chat panel. There you go. My bad. I was chatting with Naive, and now check the chat panel. Just click there. Yeah,
okay,
my
thank
bad.
you.
There you go.
That's
Just
okay. I
click.
was just like, wait, I'm on last, but I'm not. Okay, thanks.
All right. When you open a file, check this thing. There is something called audit here, and you use this checkbox when the file is really big, when it's starting to behave and giving you problems. And so what audit does is actually scan all the line codes of the model and check for the integrity and optimize it. So it compresses the file and make it easy to read. So giving you a tip there. And the other thing, if you receive a Revit file from a consultant, say, you work with an architect and the architect send you the architectural file, most likely they're going to send you a copy of the central file. And so when a central file is sent to you, the central file is going to attempt to uh, connect to the original location. And to avoid those warnings that may come up, you may want to detach a file from central. This is this checkbox here. If this checkbox is enabled when you open a Revit file, that means that it's a central file that has been sent by a consultant to you. And you definitely want to detach it. You want to break the links that this file has with the server from where that it's coming from. And so detach it and then save it as a new central in your local file. But we're gonna go about this later in the class. And then I'm just gonna hit open here, and that's gonna open this model. Everybody with me here? If you have troubles, just raise your hand, and that in the app, and that'll get my attention. All right, so this is Revit. Let's talk about the user interface. The first things to do is all right, this Revit is a digital representation of a project in 3D, not only of the geometry, but the data that's contained on it. And so what we're actually looking at here, it's the title sheet of this project. And this project is segmented in different views. A view is basically a representation in projection of the building in a certain plane. So, for example, a floor plan. You see the project browser here. The project browser is the part of the user interface that allow you to navigate through all the views in the project. So if you open a floor plan, this is a projection of a floor of a building in a horizontal plane at 4 feet above finished floor. If you open the site, for example, the site is a projection view of the building with a cut plane that is like 200 feet above the finished floor. And so that cut plane is very high up, and that's why we're able to see the roofs and everything about the site. If you open one of the 3D views, for example, open the from yard 3D view. This is a camera view. This is the equivalent of having a camera on site. And a camera has the source, which is the location of the camera, and a target, which is the direction point that the camera is looking at. If you keep scrolling down, open an elevation. I open the west elevation. This is a projection of the building on a plane, and this plane is oriented to the project south. I'm going to go back on the site. You know this already, but in Revit, you have two directions. You have the project north and the true north. The project north is useful. It's always pointing up in the screen, and it helps you align the project with an orthogonal view in sheets. That is the project north. And then the true north, this is the true north, is the actual geodesical representation of actually is the opposite. This is the project north. The project north. The project north is an orthogonal representation of the building, and the true north is is relative to the longitude and the latitude location of a project. The true north allows us to have like the right rendering sun studies, shadow studies of a project, and in Revit we can define both orientation very easily. We're gonna do that next class. All right, let's continue down. And if you scroll all the way down, you see there's a planting schedule here. And this is a list of all the trees existing in the project, and the schedule give me the total count of elements in the project. So the project browser navigates through all the views in the project. Let's open a sheet. Open the sheet called site plan, A11. And so this sheet is made of 3 different components. It has a solar view, which is a camera view that is placed on a sheet. It has a floor plan site, which is a representation of the site plan, and it has a schedule. And so all the views that are part of a sheet are listed under that sheet. And so the way we build a sheet is we create first the view, then we drag and drop the view inside the project. Now look at the site plan. You can open the site plan again. You can scroll up and look for the site plan, or you can just jump on it in this tab above. Let's look, for example, at components in Revit. When you select an object in Revit, the parameters associated with that project are listed in the property window. this property window should always be visible in the user interface. And this lists the metadata that is useful to create schedules and to describe the properties and the behaviors of this piece of information. And so notice that there is a tag here that is highlighted as T1. And so T1 is, when I scroll down the properties, actually, if you click the edit type here, you're going to see that these are the type properties of that tree. So all deciduous honey locust trees have the following properties. So the type properties are the common parameters of component. Every deciduous honey locust 25 feet has these properties. And notice that there's a type mark called T1. And so this is how this designer classify the classification system for this. Notice also that there is an assembly code associated with that. This assembly code is in a master format Omni class. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the way the BIM environment is classified is based on master format category called uniformat. Sorry, uniformat. And so this is actually a database that lives behind the Revit environment and is used to classify everything about the project. So you don't have to do this, but check this out. There are T1s, T5s, and T4s here. When I select an object and I disclose its properties, there are properties that are unique to this object. For example, the relative elevation from the level. This is in millimeters. We're going to change it in a minute. But from the level 1, that piece of tree is 374 units above level 1. I can increase that. What I'm actually doing is elevating the location of that side. And so because this property is unique to this tree, then that's why these are called instance parameters. And so that's Revit 101. So when you select an object, everything you see under the properties are called instance properties. And remember this term, because I'm going to use it a lot. Instance properties are properties that are unique to an object. And I'm not impacting the other instance of T1 that it's below, right? I'm just changing the property of this unique property. Now, when I select these three and I access the type properties, which is the type properties are under this button called Edit Type. These disclose all the properties that are common to all the T1s. So if I change that here, I change them for all of them. So the type properties are properties common to all to the family type. Yeah, I'll give you an example. We can do this together if you want. If you access the type property of this tree, and you change this to, let's say you decide, oh, this needs to be called T22, and I hit OK, then everything that was called T1 is now T22. This is aching of using AutoCAD and updating a block. You know, when you make changes to the block, all the instances visible in the project will change those properties. And so edit type, I'm going to return it to what it was before. I'm going to go back and take it to T1. So properties, the property window can be dragged out. And the way you do that is that you touch the panel head. I call this the panel head. So when you drag your mouse, you click the panel head, and then you can drag it to different location. And I can snap it to the right, and you see when the cursor touches the edges of the user interface, then you see this blue shadow. That is the size of the panel when it gets stacked to one side. And then you release the mouse. To undock it, again, click on the property window, and you can keep it floated. Or if you have an extra monitor, you can grab this and move it into your other monitor and have more real estate for your design studies. The same is with the project browser. You can unstack the project browser, which gives me the list of all the views in the project. And I can stack it. I can have like the project browser on the left and the properties on the browser on the right and the properties on the left. For this class, I want to maximize my real estate. I cannot broadcast two monitors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restack one panel on top of another one. So I start with the project browser. So I grab the project browser from the window head, and stack it to the left. And now the property window, I'm gonna drop on top of the project browser. So to do that, you have to grab the property window from the panel head, and then you have to drop it on the panel head of the property browser. So you grab this property window here, and then you drop it in the head of the other one. And look at the preview. So the preview is giving me an idea of what's going to do with it. And the change is really subtle. So if I do this, notice that it's not on top of it, but it actually creates two different tabs. This is tab 1 and this is tab 2. Some people like this representation of the user interface. I personally don't like it because I like to see the information right away. So if you don't like this either, you can also break it apart by clicking on this tab again. I'm going to grab the property window and drag it out. Drag it out. Now I have the property window floating on the right side. And in order to stack it, the movement is really subtle. So I need to like grab the property window from here and like touch the edge of the project browser. So let's try it again. Right, the property window, and you just go here and touch it. You see the preview. It's shorter than the previous one, and now I got it like I had it before. The property on top of the project browser. These two panels are always on display, and this can be closed by accident. So these are the first shortcut I teach. I'm teaching to you one. If you close the property window, the way to bring it back is by typing PP. Revit has shortcuts, but it doesn't have a command bar. Revit does not have a command bar. So what does that mean? That when you type something on the fly or a shortcut on the fly, you cannot preview that shortcut. So you have to trust your typing abilities. Big difference with AutoCAD. AutoCAD has a big, bulky command bar that, I mean, if you're old school like myself, I love to type my shortcuts and use the keyboard. I guess new generations are more of a icon type. All right, so if I close this property window by mistake, PP on the fly, and that bring it back to the last location the panel was at. The other shortcut, the same shortcut is, or you can do PP or P1, whatever preference you have. P1. Oh no, P1 is not there anymore. P1. Yeah, they removed that. It's just PP. All right, the project browser. If you close the project browser, it's not so. It doesn't have a shortcut, but we can build a shortcut for it. But out of the box, the easy way to bring the project browser is via the right click. So within the view space, hit the right click, and when you see browsers here, project browser, and that brings back the project browser. And when we are in the middle of exercise, this might happen. So check that out. If you have your floating windows here, and then you put the property windows right here, see what's happening? I am blocking all the view controls of the user interface. And you may think that you don't have those icons, but the reality is that they are there. They're just not, your panel is blocking them. Or you may have it like this, something like this. And that's blocking all your commands in the background. So be careful how you position these panels. You don't want these panels to prevent you from doing your work. So make sure they are stacked neatly on a side. Do the project browser first, and then drop the properties on top of it. Okay, this is very basic, and those who are Revit users are seeing how this is so boring. So bear with me. There's a lot of new people here who never touched Revit. So this is going to get more interesting the next few classes. Okay, let's talk about the user interface. So these are the tabs, and out of the box, there are a number of tabs. Notice that you see that on my end, I have more tabs than you do. For example, the precast is something I have. You probably don't have that. You probably don't have the content catalog, but most likely you have everything else. These are extensions that I have installed. The precast for structural engineer is something that I download from my Autodesk account. You're not going to need that if you are. This is just for structural engineers. Content catalog is a new feature in Revit 2025. I'm not allowed to disclose it on a live broadcast, so I'm just going to leave it there. So under every tab, we have command panels. This is the build panel. This is the circulation panel. and every panel has a name. This is the room and areas panel, the datum panel, the work plane panel. And so when it's going to take a while for you to memorize where the commands are. And so the instruction you're going to hear from me is to go to the architectural panel, go to the architectural tab, build panel, door command. So that's probably easier. You're gonna like have a sense of go quickly to that command. Let's do a test. Go to the modify panel, modify tab, geometry panel, cut, or go to the view tab, create panel, call out. And so that's how I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call out the commands. At least at the start of the class, and once you memorize it, I'm just going to say go to the wall command, and you know where it is. So the collection of the tab, the commands, and the panels, it's called a ribbon. This is the ribbon. And the ribbon can be has multiple ways to be displayed. And trust me, you're gonna make this mistake. Somebody's gonna make this mistake, and then don't tell me that I didn't tell you. Right next to the modified tab, we use it all the time. There's this little tiny button that has like a little arrow pointing up, and this is a toggle of the ribbon display. It compresses the ribbon display. So when you click this little arrow, it compresses the panel into an icon, and then display the command as a drop-down panel, right? If you press it again, it doesn't display the icon, but still display all the commands as drop-down panels. And if you press it again, it switch the everything all together, and you have to click on the tab in order to display the commands and the panels. And then you have to click it again to display the full ribbon display. So there are 3 ways of displaying the ribbon. And because the proximity of this little button with the modify button, you often by mistake click here. And if you do that, then your user interface is going to look very different from my user interface. And what you do, you panic, right? Why my user interface is different from the professor, I don't know. And if you don't tell me anything, you miss the whole class by just doing a very simple thing. So I don't want you to miss my class because you don't know how to follow the commands. So that's why I'm telling you from the very beginning. If your user interface look radically different, most likely it's because of this tiny little bug. I wish they just leave it on all the time. All right. Okay, tabs, panels, and commands. The other part of the user interface is this part here. There's a set of 10 or 12 different commands. These are the quick access bar. And these are the most frequently used commands in Revit. These are, I see a question here. Is there a way to save the user interface so that you can reset if everything gets rearranged? So yeah, when you make these changes on your user user interface, all the changes are being saved in a little file called the Revit INI. The Revit INI is nested deep into a folder structure under the Revit installation files. And so that contain information about your shortcuts, about the location of the panels, the tabs that you decide to turn on and off. And as long as that Revit INI is on your computer, the next time you open Revit, it's all going to look the same. So some companies are more authoritative. They are more authoritative. They really want all the users to have the same user interface. And that happened, in HOK when I was working there. And what they would do, they will push the same Revit INI on all the users, so the user don't have an ability to customize it at all. And so Revit INI save that. And so you would not find an instance of your user interface to be rearranged unless somebody changed that file. And it looks like in your company in base, nobody's going to do that for you, right? And so unless Cesar or Patricia are very strong about pushing standards. So I hope that answered the question, Hannah. All right. Let's see. Oh, so tab. There are options in Revit. If there are, you are a landscape architect firm. There are tabs that you're never going to use. For example, the Analyze tab, which has tools to create analytical structural load calculations or heat mechanical system simulations or energy optimization simulations. And if all this is taking too much real estate on your user interface, you can actually switch it off. And so you do that by going to the File tab and then go to the Options button in the drop-down panel. And these are all the options in Revit. We're going to slowly go through them. But if you go to the user interface, these panel at the top display all the tabs that are visible in the user interface. And so if you're never going to use a structure, switch it off. System, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, no need to use it. Energy analysis tool, no need to use it. Building and route analysis, no need to use it. And then these infrastructure tools is a placeholder for something that's coming up. It's not visible here. I'm going to switch it off. And then that's going to reduce the number of tabs, and it's going to probably be easier for you to learn where things are when you switch off things. And like I said earlier, those settings are saved in your local file, Revit INI file. Again, File, Options. Another thing that is in the Revit options, notice how my Revit is dark. Is yours like light white color instead of dark? Yes, no. The color background of Revit, it's a new thing in Revit 2024. So you find it under colors, and the user active theme for me is dark. I like it dark. I'm a dark person, but you may not be a dark person. If you want the light user interface, just switch it to light, and then Revit is gonna look like this. My eyes are tired from, the blue light coming from all these screens. So dark theme actually helped me with my tired eyes. So I'm gonna go to colors and switch it to the dark theme for now. It's an option. And the same is true for the rest of the Autodesk products. AutoCAD, for example, AutoCAD did this a long time ago, but this is a new feature. All right, so let's continue digging the user interface. As I was talking about the quick access bar, these are the most frequently used commands in Revit. This is a good one. You see the little diskette. This is save. So whenever you hover over a command, you're going to see this tooltip coming up. And in brackets, you will find the shortcut. If you are a shortcut person and you like to type stuff, well, that's a good reminder of how to use the keyboard to execute the command. So Control S, save, and that's saving my file. This is another good one to use. This is the undo button. You're going to use it all the time in Revit beginners. We make mistakes, and this is how we undo mistakes in Revit. I wish I can undo the mistakes I do in my personal life with a button like this, but I can't. So undo will undo the changes on the Revit interface. Here is another one. This is measure. We measure things in Revit all the time. You guys, when you do a schematic design and you want to find out dimensions, you might want to interrogate distances without placing dimensions. Then you use the measure tool. So measure between this endpoint and this endpoint. And so Revit report that distance in a temporary dimension, and it also reports the distance in the options bar. This element in the user interface here is called the options bar. And the options bar just lists modifiers for each of the commands in Revit. So the measure tool, we use it all the time. This is the dimension tool. We're going to talk about that later. Tag an element. This is how we do text. And here's another one. This little house in the upper left side, this is a 3D camera. And so this takes me to the default 3D view. And we're going to use this all the time. This takes me to an isometric view of the project in the southeast corner at 45 degrees in an orthogonal camera view. So when you click here, it'll take you to the 3D space. And while I'm here, I want you to notice that in order to understand what view I have open, you have 3 pieces of information. You can find it in 3 ways. What is the active view is the view I'm working right now. And the active view is disclosed in this tab. The name of this view is 3D in brackets. That's the location number 1. Location number 2, it's right here in the project browser, which says 3D in brackets. Notice that it's in bold letter. So that bold letter is an indication that it's my active view. I can only have one bold letter in the project browser, and that's your active view. And the other place you find information about your 3D view is right at the top. So there's no reason to feel lost in Revit because you have 3 ways to find what's your active view. And then if you have a lot of views open like we have right now, and you have like all these different type of views, at some point your user interface, your top tab is going to get saturated with views that it can no longer display. And so these drop-down lists here is a way to navigate through all your views that are currently open. And notice that there are different views for different types. So 3D views have this icon of a little house. I mean, that's an indication that it's like a perspective representation. Sheets are represented with this rectangle and with a little flip. Floor plans are represented with an icon that looks like I think it's like a paper. A schedule, it has a little icon of a schedule. So this is a view, and this is an elevation. The elevation has an icon of an elevation. And so these icons here allow you to visually understand what type of view is open. And this directly relates to the type of view you see in the project browser. So floor plans have an icon, 3D views have another one, schedule have a different one, elevation have another one. All right, so you have a lot of active views. Having too many active views is not good for Revit because it consumes a lot of RAM. And so you go to and the reason is that when you make changes in the model, like I'm going to do a quick change here. I change. You don't have to do this. When I change this power generation location, Revit has to refresh it in every view that is open at the same time. And so that's a lot of power. That's a lot of, not for this operation, but in general, Revit keep a history of everything I do in the model, right? When I click the drop-down list of the undo, these are all the actions I've done in the project. And you can, is there a question? No? No question. So when I move something, Revit has to refresh this moment across all the views, and that consumes RAM. And so I'm going to undo it. And the way to close inactive views is a nice shortcut. So you can start closing views one by one. I can go here, click the X, click this X, click another X here. That's a lot of X's to click. So instead of doing it one by one, go to the View tab. And in the Windows panel, you're going to find Close Inactive Views. So only the active view will remain visible, and that everything else will be switched off. And that's going to help you Revit perform better because it doesn't have to refresh every view as you make changes. All right, make it your 3D view your active view. And now let's see if I have more shortcuts here. The quick access bar, thin lines, open level 1, and thin lines. It's a temporary display that apply a thin line weight to all the objects in a view. And we do this when we are like doing detailing. When we are in the middle of detailing, we want to make sure that the lines are perfectly aligned and the line weight is actually on the way. And so thin lines, notice here how the line weights are enabled. And if I disable it, now the line weights are off. But this toggle doesn't impact how a view is printed. I mean, the view can be, your user interface can be set up in thin lines. When you send this to print, it's going to look like that. So it's just help you clear the view of line width so you can be better at detailing. Yeah. And then closing active views is also accessible in the quick access bar. So two places to do this. You can do it here, or you can go to the View tab and close inactive views. All right, so now I want you to have, I want you to open the schedule, the planting schedule. Here you go. So I have a 3D view, I have a level 1, and I have a planting schedule as the only views that are open. So I'm going to give you another useful shortcut, and this is another one that is good to memorize. TW. If you type TW on the fly, sorry, WT is going to tile your views in the user interface. And so WT stands for window tile. Window tile. And then the opposite, TW, it's tile windows. Which is the opposite, right? So WT, TW, WT. And notice that if my cursor is here, you can like circle how the tiles are tiled. So all I'm doing is clicking a view, and then that view becomes the first one on the left side. I don't think it works for schedules. Oh, I'm changing the schedule. That's why it is. Yeah, the schedule doesn't work. So watch. You don't want to modify the planting schedule. But if you click a view, WT, you make it the first tile. and then TW will allow you to see all the views at a time. No questions? All right. All right, shortcuts about navigating in 3D. This is a orthogonal representation, so it's an isometric. This here, right here, it's called the navigation box. And you can the navigation box is a common. It's common across all Autodesk products. And when you hover over the box, you can switch to different corners to have a different perspective or a different isometric view. You can switch to the top view. This is a top view of a 3D view. Left, if you click those little arrows, then you can switch to different orientations. Then right underneath, this is the navigation wheel. The navigation wheel reports the true north orientation, and then this box report is aligned with the project north orientation. So if I am looking at this project from the top view and I'm using this arrows to turn the view 90 degrees, you can understand the orientation of the project. So the box, this box is aligned with the project north. So this is project north. And then if you hit the N of this wheel, no, this switch me to the north elevation here. you can click on the navigation wheel, and that allow you to like rotate the model, like orbit around a pivot point, and the pivot point is the geometrical center of everything in the geometry. So that is project north, and this is true north. There is a Revit called the different orientations like top, front, back, right. It's just a way to understand what is the project north orientation. All right, zoom in and out. You can use the mouse wheel. Pan, you press the mouse wheel and drag. This is going to pan the model. Zoom and pan. And then this is another useful shortcut to memorize. Orbit. You click the shift plus the mouse wheel, or shift plus the right click. And so let's do it together. You click shift mouse wheel, and now you move them, keep them pressed, and then you're actually orbiting around the geometric center of the geometry. That is the pivot point. Or shift and right click is the same thing. Pick your poison is the same thing. Orbit also changes when you select an object. For example, when I select this tree, I click shift and mouse wheel. Now this tree becomes the center of my universe. That's the pivot point. Let's pick another element. I'm going to pick the power generator, the windmill. So click shift and center. So that is now the center of the universe. Pick this tree, that becomes the center of the pivot. All right. Let's talk about some of the view controls. These here, all these elements here, there's a question from Brandon. Can you change the orbit point to be whatever your mouse is pointing at? No. You have to select an object and then orbit around. There is a way to orbit that way, but in camera view, we're going to create a camera in a minute, and I'll show you that. So when I'm in a camera view, I can also do orbit, and then that orbit is relative to the mouse wheel. But in this view, is not. Oh, let me show you another thing. This is an orthographic representation. You can convert it into a perspective view, and so to do that, these are. This is my property window. Oh, I see a message from Patricia. Hey, happy birthday.
Thank you. Sorry, I have to sign off, but yeah, going to celebrate the birthday.
Yeah, congratulations. I am, are you a Pisces?
Yes.
My birthday is on Tuesday, so we are the same signal.
Yesterday or next week?
No, next week. Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday as well. Yeah,
Yes.
Pisces baby.
But I don't have a fancy dinner to attend because I'm teaching, and this is my joy. Yeah, go ahead and enjoy your birthday. And cheers for you here with a cup of cold coffee.
Cold tea. Yes, cheers.
Birthday, Patricia.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All right.
Happy birthday.
Bye.
Birthday. All right. So, what was what I was talking about? Now let's talk about the view controls. So yeah, these commands here in the lower left side of the view, those are called the view controls. So these are ways to change and modify the graphic property of your active window. Your active view is everything here. So the view controls modify the properties of what you see there. And the one I want you to do right now with me is the graphic display options. So these are ways to represent the view in different modes: wireframe, hidden line, shaded. The shade is a property of the material, and it only displays when you all have this enabled. When you have a shaded view, Revit assumes that there is a generic location of a light source somewhere at 30 degrees on the east and 30 degrees is northeast location, and so there is a change in the color depending on the orientation. That's a shaded view. And when you switch to consistent color, that change of tone disappears. So the orientation is no longer shaded, it's not impacted by that location of a light source. This is new in Revit 2024 textures. And this is a little bit aligned in the way SketchUp renders stuff. This will display the texture map of a building, but it doesn't without the light reflections. And so it's a way to like schematically represent something without taking in consideration light bouncing. And then the last one is realistic. Realistic is like a preview render. It consumes a lot of RAM because you need to apply renders, the textures, and it needs to apply light bouncing. And so I'm not sure if I'm in trouble here because it's not responding. But it does consume some RAM. And next, I'm going to show you how Revit crash. When Revit crash, if this doesn't unlock in the next minute, then it's probably crashed. But here's unlocked. And now you see that all the textures come to life. Look at the trees. They no longer have this schematic representation in shade. It actually displays the full texture map. This car also display in full, and then this person is smiling at us. This is an entourage type of asset. The name of this family is RPC female. RPC is realistic photo content. And the name of the family is Jean. You know, she's actually a programmer. She's a real person, actually. She developed one of the first few versions of Revit. And in honor of her, her image is like, her asset is forever in all the versions of Revit. And I think here is Alex as well, another of the initial programmers of Revit. Fun fact. All right, let's go back and switch to shaded. It's faster, it doesn't consume a lot of resources. So as you see, I utilize a combination of pan, orbit, zoom, pan, orbit, zoom, and I can very quickly navigate to different um, views of the model just by using that combination. And at the beginning of using Revit, you might not be as proficient, but as you use the software, this combination of zoom, pan, and orbit becomes uh, more ingrained to your brain. Uh, all right, so view controls. Let's talk about units. This project is in metrics. All the sample files in Revit are metrics. And the reason is because as a global company, Revit needs to support the metric world. And the United States, the only country that still have feet and inches, which I'm puzzled about. Those of you who comes from countries where metric is used, I don't know if you had the same experience that I did. When I moved to the United States, I practiced architecture in El Salvador for a couple of years, and I was so used to the metric system, and then putting me to work in feet and inches was a nightmare at the beginning. I didn't have a sense of what it meant and how to uh, define it. And now 20 years in the United States, I'm so used to feet and inches that I can no longer work in metric anymore. And that's true for everything. The weights, the distances, the weight is odd because like gas in El Salvador is sold in gallons, uh, which is imperial, but everything else is metric. Um, and I think from the manufacturer world, it make it difficult to make things for certain things don't fit in. Like in Latin America, we import a lot of assembled from the United States, and those things don't fit nicely in our metric system. So anyway, I don't know what's stopping us from changing units. If you have a better outcome, let me know. But let's change the units of this. Since this is metric, let's do it imperial. The imperial units, you'll find it under the Manage tab. And you'll find an icon that looks like a calculator with a 00 on the back. Project units. And these are global project units. So this indeed is going to impact how the units that are reported in the dimensions. And so think about what is your minimum distance units. So let's change it. The area, I want to report, instead of square meters, I want to report square feet. Think about the decimal places you want to report. I'm going to leave it at 0. If you want the Revit place a comma, for digit grouping, when report 1,000, for example, 1,000 units will have a comma there, then you can use the digit grouping. And this actually look nice in the schedule that report cost. If you let's go to distance. And notice distance and length are 2 different units. Distance is how you measure a distance between 2 points. Length is the distance between 2 parallel planes. I don't know why they do it this way, but I guess, I know what it is. The length is associated with the dimensions. The distance is how we measure elements in Revit. And so distance, let's change it to feet. You can do inches too. Or let's use feet, and let's use 2 decimal places. And for length, it's feet and fractional inches. And the rounding here, it goes from a half an inch to 1/256. A lot of firms decide to go very precise, and they go all the way to 121 to 256. And the reason they do this is that they want to force the user to be very precise in the way they construct the model. So if a user designs something at 8 feet, and you have a nearest half an inch, you can put it at 7.5, 7.75, and it's going to round it to the nearest one. And so, to avoid issues related with rounding, big firms decide to use the lowest one, 1/256, and model correctly. And then this override the rounding at the family level. So dimensions are families, and you can create types that report a different type of rounding. For this class, let's keep it at 1/8. And then I think that, the volume. Let's change the volume to cubic feet. And that's it. Hit OK here. And now notice that nothing changed in the model. Revit doesn't scale up and down, unlike AutoCAD. In AutoCAD, you have to scale an object by factor. In Revit doesn't do that. When you switch units from metric to feet, it's all calculated outside of the geometry. And so when you measure a distance now, it's measuring the length in feet and inches. All right, that's the units. Let's talk about how to navigate in the project. So open the level 1, which I have it here. Open the site. Since we are landscape, let's open the site model. And so we can change the display of the site model. If you wanna, in construction documentation, different views serve different purposes. In the case of landscape architecture, you have, your site arrangement plans. You may have a construction site plan. You may have your planting plans, your irrigation plans, and all of those display the geometry, certain geometry, switch off other geometry, and apply different graphic properties to the elements. And so it's very common that you duplicate views and apply different graphic overrides. So to duplicate a view, you're going to do it a lot. Select the site plan, right click, duplicate, and then say duplicate. So a new copy of the view, it's under floor plans, and you can rename it. Let's say this is going to be my construction site plan. Revit organize the views alphabetically, and so that's why construction plan move up in the list here. Notice also that next to each of the views, there is an icon with a different color code. A blue fill means that the view is part of a sheet, so it's being in use. And white background means that the view is not on a sheet. And so this let you know, let the user know that if they start working on these views or in the graphic property of the views, you're actually changing the way it's going to look in the sheet. It's impacting the graphic documentation. And so visually, it helps the user understand the ramification of the changes they do on a view. And also it lets you delete the views that you don't need. Oftentimes we have extra copies of views that needs to be deleted to minimize this file size. All right, so I created this new construction floor plan, and this construction plan may have a different property. Instead of being aligned to the true north, it's going to be aligned to the project north. So the orientation is a parameter in the view. You can switch it to north, and now right now this is it has shade and light applied to that. Construction plans typically don't have shades, and so this icon here that says shadows on, it's like a little light bulb behind a white sphere that switch off all the shadows. And then I can this is starting to look more like a construction plan. And I created this copy using the site as a base. Now notice that when I did what happened with all the tags? My original view had all these tags, it had text. And when I did a copy, none of those came. So when you duplicate a view, you also have a choice to say duplicate with detailing. And the detailing are the view-specific objects that describe tags, text, and dimensions. And so when you duplicate with detailing, the view-specific objects like text, tags, and dimensions are also duplicated. So let's try that. I duplicate again with detailing, and now this copy is exactly the same. It has the tags and it has the text. But notice that if I make a change in this tag here, which I can just drag out, the change in this view of this tag doesn't impact the other one, right? So text, dimensions, and tags are view-specific objects that only live in a view. You can change them and it's not going to modify the model. You know, this is a 3D object, and if I move this, it's also going to be moving in the other copy. So those are component families. Component families are three-dimensional elements, and they are represented consistently from one view to another one. And so that's the difference between duplicate a view and duplicate with detailing. There is a question here. Where's the blue question marks in the drawing? Oh, so this model was set up to be a learning asset for beginners. And when you select this is a generic annotation, and it describe what is a learning link. For example, it's telling you that if you want to learn more about this object, go to this website, and just click this, and it's telling you how to build a building path. So this doesn't. It was built for this learning, for learning purposes. You don't use that for documentation purposes, but it's a nice way to understand what a generic annotation looks like. A generic annotation is a view specific element, meaning that this doesn't live in 3D. It's specific to the view. It has built. It's used to enhance the design intent of a projection view. Um, and if you open the main title sheet, these are the objectives of the course. So you have, that generic annotation that says number 1. These are all skills in Revit that are associated with that icon. Here is. And so I don't use this model to teach all this thing. I use a combination of multiple things, but it's intended to support like a self-learning. All right. But good question. I'm liking that you are attentive. This is a property line tag, and again, view-specific objects are just conduit on information. All this information is coming from this object. So they're like vessels of parameter values. And so you cannot modify the value of a tag if you don't change the object. So you change the object metadata, then the tag is updated. All right, so we were duplicating views. This one, I created another copy that was exactly like this one, but instead it has this. And let's say that this view is going to be shaded because it's maybe for a presentation, or we can do textures. Let's do textures. And I don't need tags. So one way to turn off all the tags is deleting them. And it doesn't matter if you delete a tag, you just delete the tag. You're not actually erasing the information because the information is contained in the family. And so to erase multiple things in a view, you can do one by one, select it and delete it. Select and delete. But that's too many deletes, right? So Revit is a little smarter than that. You can click on a tag and you right click. You can say, select all instances visible in this view. It means select all the tags that have been placed in the site copy view. And they are selected in a single operation, and then you can hit the delete key. Right. And this is my view for presentation, so I'm going to call it presentation site view. Presentation site plan. And so Revit is reading off the same model, but it's applying different appearance qualities to support different view purposes. So I have a construction plan, a site plan, and a presentation site plan. Any question? All right, I think I'm gonna give us a little break. And then it's about 7:30, Um, let's come back at 7:40. That gives us 10 minutes to drink water or use the do something. And we come back. Um, I want to talk about the selection controls, which are right here, um, and the filter control, which is right here, the filters. I'm going to pause the broadcast because I don't want those 10 minutes to be there. And then let's see how to do this. We can stop live stream. There's no pause live stream. But I'm gonna, yeah, I don't know if I can pause. I'm gonna have to leave it on. Sorry, the live stream, because that section I wanted to get recorded. But let's be back at 7:40. I'm gonna actually use the restroom, and when we're back, we'll continue with selection controls. All right. I'll be back in a minute. All right, guys, I'm back online. I hope I don't lost you. Had a quick little snack to help me going. All right. Some of you are back online. Thanks. Uh, yeah, let's talk about continue talking about view parameters, instance parameters. We talk about duplicating views, so we make copies of a view, and then we apply changes in the view controls that make it look different from other views. You can do the same for any view. Okay, so let's talk about, I want to talk before going into the selection controls. I want to talk about families. What is a family and how we add families to a project? So, everything in Revit that has a geometrical representation, it's a family. When I select this tree, this is a family of the planting category. When I select a wall, this is a family of the wall category. When I select a floor, that's a family of that's a roof. That's a family of the roof category. And so a family, it's a collection of objects that have the same behaviors and the same physical representation. And this is term Revit 101. You should remember this. What is a family? Our family in Revit, right? I'm not talking about our families. That's a different term. And that probably means something different for everybody. But a family in Revit, it's a collection of objects with the same parameters and physical representation. And let me show you an example of what a family is. So here I have I have a family of deciduous honey locust. This is 25 foot high. This is 42 foot high. This is and this one is 30 foot high. So this is a collection of objects that have the same properties, meaning these tree has a level, it has a geometrical representation, it has a material. These are the parameters. It has cost, it has a type mark, it has an assembly code, it has a height, it has a default elevation. Those are the same parameters. Every family has a common set of parameters, and I'm not talking parameter values, parameters. This is a parameter name, and this is the parameter value. So a family, it's a collection of objects that have the same parameters and the same physical representation. And so all these trees are looking exactly the same. The difference is, that maybe one is the diameter of one is one, the diameter of the other one is another one. But the behaviors of these families are the same things. And so the collection of all these objects is called a family. And then the individual values for a parameter value, the variations in the value, make it a type. So a type, it's um, it's a member of a family with a unique parameter value. And so that's why this tree is 42 tree, and that make it unique. But the physical representation is the same as this one. The parameters are the same. The parameter value is different, but the parameters are the same. And so this tree, which is the RCP tree deciduous, is loaded into the project under a section called family. So in the project browser, if you scroll towards the end of this list, you're going to see a new section called families. And the families are grouped by something called a category, a family, and a type. When I open the category of, I think it's planting, planting, under P, you're going to see that in this project, under the planting category, there's one family called the RCP deciduous, and the RCP deciduous have all these different types. And so when I hover over a family, when I hover over a project, a family, notice how the tooltip display this information separated by columns, a column character. So this is the category name separated by column expression, and then followed by the family name, followed by the type name. So category, family, and type. And so the type is a member of a family, and categories can have multiple families. And notice that the same information that you see in this tooltip, you also see it right here in this corner. So this is how Revit classify the geometrical information within it in this 3-tier pieces of information: the category, the family, and the type. Revit 101. So going back to the definitions, a category is a set of common properties, but you can have multiple variations in the representation. A family is a collection of objects with the same parameter and physical representation, and a type is the unique member of a family with a parameter value. So to digest this better, I have a slide for you. In this example, I have columns. All columns share a common set of parameters. All columns are hosted by a level. They have a height. They have a material. They have they have a diameter, for example. And then, but not all columns have the same physical representation. And now, members of the category of columns are the round columns and the rectangular columns. They are different families, but because they share similar parameters, they don't share the same visual representation. Round is different from a rectangle. And then the type are individual members of a family with a unique parameter value. So this is a round column with one diameter. This is another one with another diameter. And so in the family tree of the project browser, you can see the list of all the categories. Categories in Revit are given by Revit. You don't create them, they just exist. Um, Revit is like a god. You don't question the number of categories, they just are what they are. Um, families are created by users, and the types are also created by users. And so what you see in the what you see in the browser is the list of families that have been loaded for the project. Some of these families are part of the Revit template. The template is the starting point of a project that has a preloaded list of families and that help you expedite the design process because it has the things that you need to get started to put together a project. So in your case, I expect that maybe as a result of this workshop, we're able to develop a robust template that has the basic things needed to put together a landscape project in every project by base. Doors is an example. You know, the basic doors, it's something that an architectural template will always need. You need to think about what are the things that every landscape project needs in a template. And those families are preloaded. And then when you drop these types into the project, then it becomes part of the project. So that's what's built in the model. And like I said, that information about the category family type is something that is disclosed in the lower left corner of the user interface or in the tooltip. Um, is it clear what this is? All right, so I know some of you are sleeping, so I'm gonna quiz you guys. um, based on what I've selected here, what is the category name? Somebody type it on the chat panel or speak up. Roofs, correct, easy. I'm gonna select another element. I'm gonna pick this. What is, based on the information you see on the screen, what is the type name? Type name. The type is a member of a family. Any taker? Curtain wall double glass. That is the right answer. Curtain wall double glass is doors is in category. Curtain wall double glass is the family name. And curtain wall double glass is the type name. But notice that there's another piece of information. This was tricky, but there's another piece of information here that is R0. So that is not usual, but this is called a subcategory, like a subtype. This is the type, and this is the subtype. Some families have subtypes. Let's do another one. Let's switch to a 3D view. What is the type name of this family? Any taker? The type name. Entourage? No, that's the category. RCP female? No, that's the family name. Yin Yin, that's correct. That's the type name. Remember, the last piece of information in this tooltip is the name, is the type name. You go on, Hannah, killing it. All right, and that's how Revit structure is structured. Now, there are different type of families. There are families that you load into the project, and there are families that cannot be loaded into a project. So let's talk about the loadable components. Loadable components are files with the extension RFA. So remember, I showed this in last class. When we create a project in Revit, the project is saved with the extension RVT, that stands for Revit Project. And then r.rfa, it's a file that we load inside Revit. Sorry. And that becomes an element family. It's a component family that is brought from a library of families. Every organization has its own library of components. Revit ships with a default list of families. It's super basic, and it's not enough to do the work that you guys do. So I think another of the first tasks a firm needs to do is to invest in creating a family of components, and that's all the type of trees, shrubs, wall types, and in this case, toposolid families required to represent your project delivery in the right way. So RFA is a component family that is brought into Revit, and when a component is loaded into Revit, it will be disclosed under the family tree of under the category of the family tree. So I'm going to show you how to load components. Revit is moving away from providing access to or shipping the library of components out of the box, and it's favoring a cloud-based repository of components. And I don't know if I covered this in the last class with you guys, but starting in Revit 2023, when we load a family, now we have to load it using a cloud service. And so in the Insert tab under the Load from Library panel, you're going to find a tool called Load Autodesk Family. And this opens the Load Autodesk Family dialog box that allow you to access the out-of-the-box library. This is the content that ships out of Revit. And so if we're looking for things related to landscape design, you will find that on their site and on their entourage. Is it entourage or I'm not sure, entourage. And the extent of the family is really lame. We only have 8 families that ship out of the box. This is not enough to do what you do in landscape design. Well, let's bring something. Let's bring van. So you click on the van family. There's a checkbox here. You can also bring other things at the same time. Let's bring the RCP chair. Revit started listing this. And let me know if on your end you're able to see the aggregate number of selections. This was a new feature in, I don't know if it was in 2024 or in Revit 2024.1 or point 2, but I think the number of selected elements is a new feature. And if you see it, you will you will have the latest. So RCP chat van, and then we load it. That download the families, they load it into the projects. The component is not placed in Revit. You actually need to go into the library, go into the entourage or entourage, and here are the families. Here's the van. When you open the category of van, here's the type name, delivery van, and then you drag it and then drop it. So site families and entourage families, they are a snap to the surface of the topography. Now, this particular family, like, is the insertion point of the family that gets snapped to the topography. Notice how this van is like semi, it's like right under the surface, and that's because there's a change in elevation there, and these families don't snap in angle. That's one of the limitations. They always come perpendicular to the ground, and the insertion point is what gets snapped to the surface. Let's bring the other family we loaded. Again, if you fall behind or you're just connecting, go to the Insert tab, load Autodesk family, go to the entourage category, and I brought the van and the chair. The chair is part of the furniture, and so under the F furniture category, you will find the RCP chair. Or is it under entourage? No, it's here, entourage, yeah. RCP chair. The steel case, lip, and thing, these are models of actual products. So you drag it, and then you snap it. This chair snaps to the surface of the topo solid. Notice when you select these items that it lists the host as the surface. And so wherever that surface is, the entourage elements follow. Let's bring some plants. So you go to the Insert tab, Load Family, not Load Family, Cloud, Autodesk Cloud Family. Load Autodesk Family. And then go back to All Results and look for the planting category. Again, this is the lane pour out of the box library of trees. It's not enough to do the type of things you do. But let's bring, let's say, a conifer tree. Let's bring a tropical tree and a shrub. So all of these are going to be manifolded under the folder of planting in the project browser. They're getting downloaded. And now under the, look under the planting category. Here are the additional families that I brought in. I brought the conifer, and it brings several types: the yellow pine, cedar, Norway spruce, Chinese juniper. Drag and drop it. I'm gonna bring this here. I'm gonna bring a Douglas fir, a yellow pine. This is 90 feet, so it's supposed to be super big, but they say it's not visible for some reason. I don't know. This is probably bad definition. Another tree. The eastern hemlock. So the other one's the RCP tropical. So it brings like 10 different types of palms. Orange tree, Japanese floor banana. Hurricane palm. All right, so I'm like bringing all these assets into the project from the project browser. You can drag and drop components from the project browser. Another way of doing it is go into the architectural tab and hit components. And when you do that, Revit remembers the last item I placed in the project. And so you can place a component using the type selector. So another thing to remember, this is the type selector. That's the name of this user interface, selector. And so the type selector allow me to pick the last element I loaded. So you're only going to see trees. No, you're going to see all the components, all the loaded into the project. And this is a variation of all different type of categories. So at the very top, these are sorted alphabetically. These are the most recently used at the bottom. But you can use the architecture component tool to bring a family using the type selector. And let's say I want to bring a vase with 3 flowers. And I go back, I'm going to put it here. This item belongs to the category of specialty equipment. How do I know? Because that's the category. The category is the first part of the description here. The first part of the description here. Okay, so this is how we bring families into the project, and these are component families. So now we're here. Let me talk about what are the different type of families that we see in Revit. In Revit, we have 3 type of elements. We have families that are model elements, families that represent datum elements, and families that are view specific. Model elements are loadable components. Everything that we've been adding to the project are loadable components. And then we have host components. A host component is the one that hosts the model, the model components. So in this example, for this topo surface, it's a host for all the trees. You know, when I pick this tree, it says that it is hosted by a surface, and that surface is the host of the trees. So some elements are host of other elements. Another example, you see this skylight. This skylight is hosted by the roof. This skylight cannot exist if a roof is not a host. And so back in the Revit world, model elements are hosts, and we have components. These are examples of hosts: walls, floors, roofs, ceilings. These are example of components: doors, window, furniture, trees, specialty equipment, mechanical equipment, light fixtures. All of those are model components. Usually, if you delete the host, you also delete the component. For example, you cannot have a freestanding door. A door needs to be hosted by a wall. And if the wall disappears, the doors associated with that disappear as well. The other type of elements are datum. Datums are work planes that are used to structure the project. Those are grids that are vertical planes that define structural elements, like the center columns. Levels, which are horizontal planes that define the top of finished floors. And reference planes, which are working planes that we use to build additional geometry. And then we have view-specific elements, which are the tags, symbols, and dimensions. Remember when we were talking about tags? And then views, detail components, detail lines, etc. And these are called view-specific because they only live on a view. So let me show you how they are in my Revit model. So when I go and open the level 2, for example, the wall, it's a model element and it's a host of windows. This room tag, it's a view-specific element that is living on top of the view. It doesn't live in other views. It's just living in this view. This door tag, it's just living on top of the view. It's a view-specific object. The grid line, it's a datum object. Datum objects are grids and levels. So it's a vertical plane that define the location of the structural elements. Dimensions are view-specific. A dimensional only lives in the project. Texts and arrows, those are view-specific elements. They only live in a view. And so this is the hierarchy of elements in Revit. And I'm gonna be coming back to this slide in future classes. All right, so I'll show you how to load components, how to load families. Let me show you a cool thing. This is how I'm going to end the class today. This is content catalog. Content catalog is a rebranded product that we purchased 3 years ago. It's called Unify, and now it's going to be offered as part of Revit 2025. And so content catalog allow me to launch. It's similar to the cloud-based product, but it's far more robust. So what content catalog does is to present me with a custom created repository of components. It's not working for me. Let me see. I need to validate on my phone. So For some reason it's not displaying the content. Oh, it's synchronizing. Still synchronizing. Anyway, it's I think I might demonstrate it next class, but the what you can have is collections instead of having a single library that is not accessible, like the out of the box library that ships with Revit, what I just show you, in the insert load. This is how Autodesk distribute this content. You cannot add more content to this one. You cannot delete it. It's what it is, the out of the box family. But with Unify, you can centralize all your content on the cloud. It's not living on a server. What that means is it's accessible to anyone working remotely. And it has this really powerful let's see if I can open one. Nope, I guess I'm not. They took me out of the beta project. These libraries are custom created. You can host it in Autodesk Docs, and it will display your whole list of families here where you can drag it and drop it. But the more important part is that you can search elements not only by name, but you can access the parameter and parameter values to make a really robust, refined search. So here, for example, I can search for a parameter value, say everything, show me everything that has a certain material, or show me everything that has a certain height, and Content Catalog will display to you that. It's going to be launched in about a month. But I lost the ability to sort the collections, which were available like a month ago. All right, well, too bad I couldn't show it to you, but it's the next version of the Autodesk Family dialog box. Okay, I think it's time to let you go. Save this file, and we're gonna continue discussing more Revit next class. We're gonna get into selection controls. I didn't talk about the selection controls, which is how you select multiple elements and how you modify, can you isolate elements by category. So let's save it. We're gonna go back to this on Monday. If you missed this class, check the recording. It should be live as soon as I hit stop. And on Monday, we're gonna finish the discussion of the UI, and we're gonna probably at a half point in the class, we're gonna start a new project from scratch. And so, yeah, thanks for sticking with me 3 hours, guys, and enjoy your weekend and enjoy your evening. Talk to you on Monday. All right.
Thank you, Cesar.
Bye.
This is,
Bye.